The Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville, were bicycle makers from Dayton, Ohio. They weren't trained engineers, but they were inspired by a man named Otto Lilienthal, who made a series of glider flights in 1896. But he was killed when one of his gliders crashed, and so the brothers became obsessed with solving the problem of how to control a flying machine. They believed that it wasn't all about just creating lift or power, but that controlling the aircraft once airborne was just as important. In 1899, they tested something called wing warping on a 5-foot kite. This would become roll control on an airplane. Then they looked for the perfect spot to test their first glider. They wanted somewhere with steady winds and soft sand in case of a crash. So they chose Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Their first gliders, from 1900 to 1901, were terrible. They had very poor lift and they kept crashing. So they went back to the drawing board and realized that everything they knew about aerodynamics was wrong. So they spent a year redesigning and testing. In 1901, they built the world's first wind tunnel and tested over 200 different wing designs. They discovered that existing aerodynamic data, like the tables that Otto Lilienthal had spent years compiling, were completely inaccurate. So the brothers started to work out their own theories of flight. By 1902, they had solved true three-axis control: roll, pitch, and yaw. Roll was controlled by warping the wings. Pitch was controlled by an elevator on the tail, and yaw was controlled by a rudder also on the tail. And that's how aircraft control is done, even today. But to make an airplane go forwards, they needed power. In 1903, they designed and built their own 12-horsepower engine because there was no lightweight engine available to buy. It was an underpowered, unreliable mess, but it was their only option. They also invented the first airplane. At the time, propellers were thought of as wings that happened to be rotating. Most aircraft designers believed that a fixed-pitch propeller was best. But the Wright brothers realized that if they could change the pitch of the blades while they were spinning, it would allow them to control the aircraft far better. And so in 1903, they were ready to try a powered flight. On December 17th, Orville made the first powered flight. It lasted 12 seconds and covered 120 feet. But the wind snatched the aircraft after it landed and nearly knocked Orville over. Can you imagine the scene? Two guys in coats and hats, goggles and helmets, holding on to their tiny plane as it's blown around in the wind. It must have looked pretty comical. That day, they made 4 flights, the longest one by Wilbur lasting 59 seconds and covering 852 feet. These flights took place at Kill Devil Hills, near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Only 5 people witnessed the historic event, and then disaster struck. After the 4th flight, a gust of wind smashed the Wright flyer to pieces. But the mission was accomplished. For 3 years, the world either ignored or doubted the Wright brothers' achievement. It wasn't until 1908, when Wilbur stunned Europe with long, controlled flights in France, that the brothers finally gained global fame. Tragedy struck again when Orville's passenger, United States Army Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, was killed when their plane crashed. He was the first person ever to die in a powered airplane. In 1909, the U.S. Army bought the first military airplane, a Wright Flyer, for $30,000. So next time you get on an airplane, remember that the Wright brothers, 2 bicycle mechanics from Ohio, changed the world forever. If you find this video interesting, click like, share, and subscribe for more videos.